I'm just thinking like the employer say, okay, bit jumpy over the last 2 years. There needs to be a bit of storytelling under the experience as well. Just say like what you've did, what you've achieved, what problems you face. So again, think about it from the situation, task, action, result, and heavily focus obviously on the latter, the results in your resume. Open bullet points with actionable work, demonstrated, achieved, all those bang words effectively.
Hello and welcome to Polyweb. I'm your host, Sarah Totally, and my guest today is Owen Haley, a leading Web3 recruiter with over 70 candidates placed in various different Web3 projects. With Owen, we talk about how to get a job in Web3, how to write a killer resume to land your dream job, and how to negotiate your salary and spotting the red flags before getting hired. So please enjoy this conversation with Owen Haley. Owen, welcome to Polyweb.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. I'm very happy to have you here.
Good to be here. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah. And so this is a highly requested episode, and I will say a very useful one as well, because we're going to talk about how to find a job in Web3 and also how to repurpose your career, in this space. But before we dive into the topic on how to find a job in Web3, maybe a good place to start is by telling our audience how is recruiting in Web3 different from recruiting in Web2?
Good question. I guess it's more global. It's borderless. The vast majority of clients are less preoccupied with one's location. It's all about proof of skill, not about proof of place so much, especially within the engineering domain. For example, good Rust developers are very hard to find, and it doesn't matter to a large degree if you are a top-class blockchain developer or Rust developer for that matter, whether you're living in Brazil or in California, the salary discrepancy between the two areas won't be as apparent as it is in Web 2, so to speak. So that's the most noticeable. That there's also a lot of autonomy as well. Token allocations, equity options play a big deal in the overall negotiation of getting someone over the line to work for your particular project, whereas in Web 2 it's more preoccupied on base salary and the upside in deals when it comes to negotiating salaries and vesting schedules can be huge. And that's the main takeaway, really.
Okay, so that's interesting. Since we are on the topic of how is recruiting different in Web 2 compared to Web 3, why should, for example, a software engineer working at a top company in Web 2 or like in a tech company in Web 2 in general be interested in shifting towards Web 3 instead?
Well, 90% of the time they probably shouldn't. If they're getting a stable job, if they're getting a reliable income every week with benefits, maybe they shouldn't. That's the reality of the question. That's the reality of the space, the stage we're at as an industry. It's high risk, high reward. And again, for example, especially if you're in the US, a lot of the employment contracts are business to business within Web3. And that's a huge thing if you are an American candidate, because oftentimes if you're working on such a contract, you have to effectively pay whatever, 20 grand on health insurance yourself. So 90% of the time you shouldn't. But that being said, it comes down to answer your question, it comes down to psychological contract. If you're a developer working in Web 2, you will always have security in your profession as a Solidity developer, as a top-class Rust developer, as a top-class Golang developer in the space. You'll be absolutely fine. You can go from one project to another relatively easy. Yeah, again, yeah, again, it's high risk, high reward. So if you have to really kind of do your due diligence on particular projects. See, do you buy into the vision? Can you work with the founders? Do you believe that the roadmap that they have laid out is achievable? Do you envisage any future funding problems with that particular project? There's a lot of various different variables that you have to consider when joining a project. And I often tell candidates coming into Web3, technical or non-technical, effectively, it's not, you shouldn't be advertising necessarily yourself to a company. The company should be as much telling you why you should work for them, because it is high risk, high reward. And yeah, a lot of these projects operating in the space, they haven't a lot of runway. That's the reality. And even obviously you see like a lot of layoffs within the space, not only in a lot of these major exchanges, for example, they had layoffs of between 20 and 30% of headcount at the start of the year. So there isn't really a safe hiding space, particularly Web3. And
Yeah, I love your honesty. Really, it's so refreshing. And since we're on the topic, what are Web3 companies looking for when they are hiring for a particular role, right? What sort of skills and competencies do you need to develop, let's say, to be a good candidate for a Web3 project?
yeah, so that's a great question. And I guess I can kind of give you different answers. I suppose for some projects, I did allude to the fact that Web3 is very meritocracy based system in one sense, but in the other sense, for about 50% of projects, it definitely isn't. I guess the network effect in Web3 at the moment is huge. So, like if it's a business development role, for example, heavy influence on things like what exchanges you might be able to get us listed on, what partnerships could you get us with, what VCs can you help us jump into bed with, if it's a marketing, where could you help us place the content with various different outlets. The network effect within Web3 is huge, and for a lot of the non-technical roles in Web3, it's very much the network effect and who do you know plays a huge, huge part. And that relates the importance of personal branding within the space in a massive, massive way. Your network, your network is your net worth. To that saying couldn't be more relevant within a Web3 context, especially where we're at now still in the industry. But on the other side, it is very empowering, people coming together, collaborating, and people hiring based on one's particular skills as well. So you get to see kind of the disparity is huge. You get to see kind of people looking for people to effectively get them a quick win, but also you get to see other projects that are there for the long term, don't care where one is located, not particularly fussy sometimes about one's particular background, that they didn't attend an Ivy League school, for example, or anything like that. Those institutional factors in terms of education go out the window for a lot of projects. The disparity is huge, and I hope the picture I'm trying to paint can be visible to you. But you get some projects looking for a quick win, and you get other projects that really buy into someone's passion, regardless of their resume. So you get some projects that hire for the quick win, but you also see a lot of great projects that they hire the person, they don't hire the resume.
It's a mixed bag.
Now you said it, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Let's do an exercise together, maybe, and make it very, very actionable for listeners. So let's say I am a software engineer and I can do Solidity and some Rust, but I'm at the beginning of my career, right? So I was previously a software engineer, let's say, in a Web2 company. And now I learned, those additional programming languages, and I want to move to Web3. And I come to you. What is it, the conversation that we're going to have?
Yeah, the conversation that we're going to have is effectively if you're lacking Web3 specific experience, again, I just want to be able to advise you to the best of my ability, just have a strong GitHub link and be able to show repos that you're particularly proud of. Don't just push in a GitHub demos or POCs that don't offer any meaningful value. And again, from an engineering point of view, it's not too difficult to get into Web3, I would say. And if you're an experienced Rust developer or a couple of years Rust experience, you're welcome into Web3 with open arms. You can find a job literally in the morning. Such as the lack of talented Rust developers in the market.
How does that conversation change if, for example, instead of a software developer, I'm a marketer? So I am a marketing manager, and let's say I also have previous work experience in Web 2, but not in Web 3, right? And I would like to reposition my career there to work for a Web 3 company. How does the conversation between you and me change at this point?
So I say to a lot of people from such backgrounds, they're very passionate about Web3. They really kind of want to get involved, and they're struggling and they're disappointed that they can't. Yeah, it can be, yes, it's obviously frustrating as well, because you can see their potential and you worry that the clients won't. But yeah, I guess you just have to reassure them that there's a lot of marketers at the moment in the Web3 space out of work. And if you're getting a full-time paid job, a lot of these Web3 marketers will be very grateful to be in your situation. And I can assure you of that. There's a lot of Web3 marketers at the moment going from freelance job to freelance job. Yeah, like the Web3 marketing space has just been crushed over the course of the over the course of the bear market, to be honest. It is recovering slowly, thankfully, but still has a long way to go to reach anywhere near the highs that it was previously. I worked on a 100k role, not too long ago for a CMO, and I was amazed by the caliber of candidates that I was getting for that particular role, simply because Q1 2022, these people would have turned down 150k roles, no problem. So yeah, no, like again, I would obviously tell people I tell such people that from marketing backgrounds to just get ready. There's not a lot of opportunities in marketing, but it is recovering, and maybe go to a few meetups, build your network, build your personal brand on LinkedIn. Again, I can't emphasize that enough. Build your personal brand. If you're fascinated about digital fashion, for example, build your brand around a marketer that's obsessed with digital fashion, so that people will come to you regarding potential collaboration opportunities or marketing roles. Find projects maybe that have recently raised funding from reputable VCs and reach out to their founders directly and say to them, listen, let me get involved. Let me help out pro bono for 2 or 3 months so that I can just get that logo or that Web3 experience on my resume, so that I can use that as a stepping board to join into the space. It gives the person an eye into the Wild West, in some instances, that is Web3. So effectively, for example, those VC-backed projects, reach out to the founders directly, ask them if you could help out here and there for a few months. And the good thing about Web3 is that a lot of people are willing to help, and that will lead to more networking opportunities. And it'll also allow you to realize whether this space is for you or not. And again, I think marketing it's a very nuanced space within Web 2 marketing compared to Web 3 marketing, because you get to see the effect that community has, and that can't be nothing. I don't think anything can prepare Web 3 marketers or Web 2 marketers for the effect community has, to be honest.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Interesting. And while you were talking, you mentioned now for the second time building a personal brand on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And I wonder, what's your take in how you can go about building your personal brand on LinkedIn in a way that is appealing for getting a potential job, both as a full-time hire, but also as a freelancer? How do you go about that?
So it's an investment, and like any investment, it takes time to come to fruition. And again, it's about picking a niche and sticking to that niche, and gradually your personal brand within that niche will grow and become reputable and become respected. And it will be a thankless job for the first couple of months, but how you could maybe shortcut that is connect with like-minded individuals, connect with people that you believe are worth listening to in the space, add your insights in the comments as to what disagree with them, agree with them, see what maybe if they posted or something, see what maybe they could have elaborated on, and allow that person to say, right, that person is worth connecting with. I've read her or his comment. I want to get to know this person. And that's a hack to effectively build your personal brand. It's all about positioning and adding value. And again, it just takes time, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, it's a bit of an investment upfront, I will say, right?
Yeah.
But eventually, maybe it will pay off.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no, it will pay off if you put the work in, yeah.
Okay, I like the optimistic spirit. So let's assume I'm still the software engineer that is looking for a job in Web3. I got your advice, and now it's time to send you my resume. And let's talk about how to write a resume effectively for getting a job in Web3.
Yeah, so it really does depend on who you're applying to. If you're applying for a scale up, a more formal approach is advised. It depends on your seniority as well. But if you are, for example, a designer going for a startup, you want to add the bells and whistles. You want that element of flair. But if you're going for a CFO job at a major scale up, you want to keep it simple, stupid. And again, just look at the ATS in which you're applying to as well. Again, I don't like double column resumes because it just ruins it just ATS systems are just very finicky and particular. And if you were applying, for example, at a major exchange, for example, and you upload your resume through an ATS and it's a double column resume, it could get lost amongst hundreds of applicants and they mightn't even be seen, unfortunately. So you just have to be mindful from an ATS perspective who you're applying to as well. But again, I just don't like double column resumes. And from a recruiter perspective, and I can't emphasize this enough, most recruiters only look at a resume for about 10 seconds, and the hook is vital. It's like a LinkedIn post. You want someone to really engage with the first couple of lines. So your hook, that's why your executive summary at the top of your page is it's everything. Yeah.
How do you write an effective hook? Like, if you want to stand out, Let's still go with the example of I am a software engineer with a couple of years of experience in Web 2, now transitioning to Web 3. So what shall I write in the hook, for example?
So obviously, your years of experience, your stack, if you're coming into Web3, it's highly advisable that you have some GitHub repos and be able to have something on GitHub that the CTO would say, okay, this is very nice, and effectively be able to show effectively it's 100 words, and be able to say within those 100 words in the executive summary, well, we want you. And you could reference a project that you're particularly proud of, or else you could go the more conventional route of assurance. I've worked for this company, I've worked for that company, and I've had X years experience. It really just depends on what stage you're at.
Okay. So now I'm thinking about my own. So how long should it be?
I'm sorry?
Hook, How long should it be? The
I'd recommend 100 to 150 words, no more than 150.
Okay, interesting. Now I'm thining about mine. I'm like,
Yeah,
is my hook good enough? Like I'm second
yeah,
guessing now. Ah, okay.
yeah. And
Then
if you're
maybe I show
design,
you
and if
later.
you're no, but if you're a designer, of course, obviously, or if you're a developer, obviously, links to the GitHub, be able to click on it straight away. Um, you raise a lot of suspicion as a developer if the GitHub
Sure.
isn't visible straight away. Again, you have to have problem with the North Korean developers and all that kind of stuff going on. And if you're a designer as well, we want to be able to see your Behance profile as well and see some of your designs. So yeah, link is vital as well at the top. And yeah, I suppose then when you get into the lower trenches of the resume, I tell candidates to approach an interview from a situation, task, action, result. Try and answer all the questions using those 4 points so that the interviewer can really visualize what you're telling him or her. And the same should be applied to the resume. Set the scene, set the story, be able to make it flow effectively from experience to experience, and no more than 2 pages. Anything more than 2 pages is a waste of time.
Okay, then I'm definitely gonna show you my resume later because now I'm
Okay.
like so curious. Because as a product manager, mine is a bit more fluffy than I don't have links etc. to post. Like it's like
Yeah. Yeah.
I write basically what every product manager say, like product leaders with X amount of years of experience, working in B2B, B2C, blah blah, delivering high value like like the usual. But
Yeah.
now you get me
And
thinking.
no, but like this is obviously commonsensical, but obviously when you're looking at if you're applying for a job with a major corporation or one with a major exchange, for example, look at the job description, look for the keywords, and make sure those keywords are thrown into your resume as well.
Okay, let's make this even more actionable. I have an example here of a resume, and what we can do is go through it together, and you could share some tips, and highlight the most positive points. Let's say so, what people should copy, for example, from this resume, versus things that maybe needs improvement, if any. Okay.
Yeah, sure.
So this resume belongs to a full stack developer with over 8 years of experience, skilled in a vast range of technologies, programming languages, architectures, and tools. So right now I'm reading the about or the executive summary, you can say. It goes on by stating participation in different projects gave me the opportunity to learn and prove my excellence in problem solving, planning, decision making, organizing tasks, designing processes, determining technology stack, mentoring, among other skills. My current interests lie in the Web3 field as it's fresh, innovative, and rapidly expanding, which is in alignment with my creativity and curiosity. My most recent experience is the creation of a pet project as part of Crystallize.dev Web3 Focus Bootcamp. All right.
Yeah.
What's about this executive summary?
So first time looking at it, but it's not bad. Maybe a little bit too wordy. Maybe be a bit more specific and like don't be as vague. Maybe again, behavioral competencies. Yeah, like I wouldn't be overly elaborative on those, to be honest. Yeah, maybe say I'm highly motivated or something, but it doesn't need to. It can be like the opening line of a sentence rather than the actual making it being a full sentence itself. So yeah, full stack. I am a full stack. I would get rid of those. I would get rid of those 3 words in particular to start with. Experienced, a full stack with 8 years experience. I would lead with that. I would just bit too wordy at first glance. I wouldn't also call it a pet project. either. I would maybe say developing a Web3 focused bootcamp. But it's not bad. It's actually not bad, to be honest, looking at it for the first time. I'd be curious to know, has the person his GitHub link over the about section initially, because when the CTO goes to look at the resume, that's what he or she will effectively click on first. CTOs won't read that. This is more so that the talent acquisition person will be able to make the decision. So this is who we're impressing here, obviously, in the vast majority of cases. Education, if you have 8 years experience, right down to the bottom. No need for it. That should be an afterthought. Again, if you're celebrating something that maybe happened 8 years ago, get rid of it, down all the way down to the bottom. Unless you did a master's maybe at a prestigious university or something like that, include that in the executive summary maybe instead. But education usually all the way down to the bottom. It should be the last thing, really, to be honest. Especially if you have 8 years experience.
Okay. For people who are listening and not watching, what Owen is referring to is after the about section or the executive summary, this resume goes on listing the education and training as opposed as the working experience. So that's what Owen is referring to. So education and training go last. Okay. Moving forward, we see the working experience. Okay. So here we got, it's actually a 2 pages resume. So 1 page and a half. So I will say that's a good length. And there is a brief description of the technology that this candidate has worked with. So the first working experience says working in 4G, 5G projects, including Java, Kubernetes, microservices, Apache Camel, Karate tests. The second experience state alleviated problems with existing platform as a sole supporting engineer. The third experience listed on the resume, mentored junior developer with code review, communication with clients, and knowledge sharing, participated in decision making about architecture and technical approach with architect and clients. And basically it goes along like these also for the other experiences listed. So what do we see here, Owen? What do you think?
So first off, I would say mention your last 4 experiences rather than all 8 experiences as indicated on the resume. 4 might even be one too many. So there's 7 there in total. Yeah, limit that down to 3 or 4 in terms of experiences. This person's profile, it's a little bit jumpy, let's be honest, which is can be a red flag. But that being said, in the engineering space, it's more accustomed that people go from project to project a lot more. Yeah, he mentioned from Jan 2018 to December 2020, he was working on a contract position. As an employer or a recruiter, I would be looking maybe for an explanation as to what happened with the subsequent 3 experiences. Like, were they location issues? Was it COVID related that they had to stop working there? Was it a funding issue with the project that he or she worked on? And I'm just thinking, like, the employer would say, okay, bit jumpy over the last 2 years. So just be ready to explain that in interview, but maybe even in the resume, just be able to maybe just a one word to say what happened in the last bullet point, depending on the circumstances. Obviously, it's all circumstantial, and but again, going back to what I said earlier, there needs to be a bit of storytelling under the experience as well. So just say like what you've did, what you've achieved, what problems you face. So again, think about it from the situation, task, action, result, and heavily focus obviously on the latter, the results. In your resume, open bullet points with actionable work, demonstrated, achieved, all those bang words effectively, so that there's a bit of, so that gives your resume a bit of panache, I suppose. And yeah, again, there's too many experiences, there's not enough details. Again, yeah, just
Okay.
working in 4G, 5G projects, including yeah, but I just want to know, like, in what context. So yeah, flesh it out. Yeah.
Okay. That's good. And the resume ends with additional information. So, skills, certification, language proficiency, and
Brilliant.
interests. Are those important to add into a resume?
100%. Yeah. So I would add the skills maybe under the executive summary, and I would leave the certifications where they are, and I would move the education down to this additional information section. And yeah, languages. Yeah, great that he's multilingual, and yeah, interests as well. Nice touch as well, and gives a bit of information about his personality as well, and could maybe elaborate a little bit, maybe a little one liner as to who he is as an individual as well. But yeah, it's obviously it's not a double column resume, and for an engineering profile, I like the fact that it's not double column. It's 2 pages as well. So the formatting isn't terrible. It just needs to be a lot more information under the actual experiences themselves. The executive summary needs to be a bit more, a bit snappier. Training, you can squeeze that into the executive summary. Education needs to be moved down, but it's a solid 6, 7 out of 10 resume. It's not desperate by any means.
Okay. Well, thank you, Owen. That I think was very very helpful and very actionable, and
Perfect.
hopefully listeners.
I'll send maybe one or two suggested podcasts over to you, to the individual in question. It's okay with you.
Yeah, of course. I'll put you in touch after we finish the recording with the candidate, and yeah, I'm sure the candidate will love to receive some suggestion and some advice from you for sure. Okay, so let's assume that I got a job offer from a Web3 company. Okay. So, what should I consider before accepting the offer? And what are the red flags that I should pay attention to?
Yeah, so the first obvious red flag is the interview itself. The Web3, obviously, like as I previously alluded to, it is very Wild West. And don't be afraid to ask difficult questions in the interview. And if they're not being answered, run. You know, just run. And if their difficult questions aren't being addressed, because likelihood is you'll be spoofed throughout your time working there as well. And you'll be scratching your head in a few months' time as to why I even bothered joining this particular organization or project. Obviously, there's no such thing as job security in Web3, unfortunately, but query the runway, the funding runway, and how they're set up. They could be in a mess for all we know, but at least if they're honest about it, at least you know you can trust the individuals that they're honest about it. And sometimes it could be a case of if you're not getting a good answer, or not a good answer, but if a sketchy answer, that's obviously a red flag in itself. And again, just look at the project as well. Like if they're around a year or two, like is there has there been much turnover based on LinkedIn? So be a LinkedIn detective effectively. See if people have been working there before, and don't be afraid to connect with those people that have worked there previously and ask them, here, listen, I appreciate that you used to work with this project. I'm pending offer. Could you please give me a bit of context as to the culture and the founders and how they're going internally? Because with a lot of these projects, what you read in the newsletters and what happens in reality are two completely different. Yeah, it's obviously, yeah. Just saying, like, a lot of these projects have very deceptive newsletters as to what's going on, dare I say it. And also, another key thing as well, do the people working there have public profiles? Are they effectively putting themselves out there and saying, right, I work here. I'm publicly stating that I work here. And yeah, that's a huge one for me personally, that the people working there have public profiles as well. And it just gives her a level of reassurance that there's a level of accountability internally within the project as well, because a lot of developers working in Web3 projects, they don't publicly state that they're working in Web3 projects, because likelihood is they could be working for a couple of different clients, but they could be labeled as an employee with on a website for a Web3 project, for example, even though they're messing around in multiple different jobs. So that's a big one for me, the public profile.
Okay. Okay, yeah, absolutely. This is I think super important. And it's a bit different from a Web2 type of company. You know, those things in a Web2 company are kind of taken for
Yeah.
granted, you know, but
And
in this case,
just ask them as individuals as well, what do you see me doing in the role? What are my KPIs? Understand that they know what they're looking for as well, like any job. So that when you're sitting down with them, well, you know, a lot of Web3 projects aren't properly set up from a HR perspective, but hypothetically, if there was a probation meeting 6 months into the job, what would my KPIs be after that 6 months? And put that situation to the interviewer or the founders and be able to see, can I achieve those objectives? Are they reasonable? And take it from there.
yeah. Other question that you can think of that a candidate should ask to stress test this prospective job.
Yeah, just the one that I alluded to, as to what are my KPIs in the job, and just get them to really answer that question, and don't be afraid to chat GBT it. If you're not getting a proper answer, or there's an element of that answer that you want to zone in on it. Yeah.
Let's talk about the question, the topic that everyone probably is most interested into, which is salary, of course, right? So what's the rate, you know, for jobs in Web3? So both as an employee, how much you should aim to get, and as a freelancer as well. So let's say we'll make a couple of examples. So let's say, you know, first a software developer, and then maybe we go back to the marketing example. Okay, so two different type of job, and let's say with I don't know, like mid-level. So not senior, not super junior, or like somewhere in between.
Then what discipline?
Let's first start with a software engineer.
Okay. And what language?
Let's say I'm a backend developer. Let's say I'm a Solidity backend developer.
Yeah. And how much experience?
3 years of experience.
Nice. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So like it depends on kind of, again, there's no simple way of asking that question, because it depends. Like, do you want someone from a like Keir Finlow Bates, who was previously on your show, as like will in his post perfectly points out that if you want to be a Solidity engineer, you also have to be a software engineer. So a huge aspect in respect to that would be understanding how much Web2 engineering experience does this person have, and obviously that will play into the salary as well. So, but generally speaking, 3 years Solidity experience, no matter where you are in the world, you should be looking at 100k plus.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
And this is location independent. So wherever you are in the world, because like
Absolutely.
I know that for the US, this is not a great salary probably.
Yeah, true. Yeah. No, like again, it's all circumstantial really. Like for example, I spoke to predominantly a Python engineer that had a little bit of Solidity experience, that wasn't too long out of university, and he was currently earning 180,000 in his Web2 company. And I'm telling him, listen, buddy, you can stay where you are if money's the big deal to you, because dare I say it, you would unfortunately have to take a pay cut unless you can reach out directly to a CTO at a project and be able to wow him or her with an impressive project and an impressive GitHub that you're particularly proud of. And again, that's the great thing about Web3. It's democratic. So again, take Pakistan, for example, in a Web2 context, and I have great respect for Pakistan developer community. It's been a fantastic hunting ground for me in finding low latency talent in particular. A lot of the developers in Pakistan were sweatshop developers, as I call them. They were working for outsourced companies, for major FANG companies, I suppose, through agencies, and they were getting paid peanuts. And now they're going out on their own, working for Web3 projects, and they're getting a much fairer share, considerably higher salaries than they were in a Web2 context. So, yeah.
Interesting.
And again, we're talking about global market data, not local market data. And that's the great thing about Web3. And the bad thing for America, I suppose, when it comes to global market data, you got to come down a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, so that makes it not so attractive for certain location. Ah, okay,
Sure.
interesting. I didn't know this. So yeah, good that I asked. Good to know. And now, like, let's go with the example of being a marketer with 5 years of experience, so a bit more experienced, let's say, than the software developer. So what is the salary that I can look at?
So 5 years experience in Web3
Yeah.
or in the blockchain context. Yeah.
Let's say I have 5 years of experience. I worked in Web 2 before, let's say 2 years in Web 2 and 3 years in Web 3, but total experience 5 years.
It really does depend. It depends on what projects that you come from, to be honest. And I hate saying that because whether you come from a successful project or not, it's not an accurate reflection of one's ability. But unfortunately, retail recruitment is a big thing, and logos are a big thing when in recruit for Web3. And I get it to a certain degree in terms of projects want assurances, and a lot of people can embellish resumes to a huge degree in Web3. People take liberties when writing resumes, and it's crazy. Like again, when I come back to Wild West, people can really embellish upon their experiences in Web3. But it really does depend on the projects that they come from and what they've achieved within those projects as well. So if they were able to scale a community substantially, or they were able to play a lead role and grow the project, and that project substantially rose in value over their time there, which significantly helped their salary earning power. I would say on average, and it's average, the median and the average could be two completely different things here, but I would say on average maybe 70, 80K. And a lot of people will probably scream at me for saying that, but I'm just giving you an average here.
Yeah, I guess it depends, right? As you say, like years of experience, company that you worked with before, etc. So they might command a very different salary. Okay, interesting. Owen, the market right now, it's not in the best place at the moment
Yeah.
in general, but I feel like especially for Web3, considering also this huge explosion that we had with AI innovation, it feels like a bit Web3 got sidetracked a little bit or lost his
Lost in the mainstream, so to speak.
lost the mainstreams. Yeah, that's correct. So what do you think is the future of the job market in this area as a
Oh,
parting thought?
very positive. Yeah, very positive. Like there's a lot of major brands will come into the space in a big way, and that will obviously increase the opportunities considerably. And even in the last few weeks, I'm noticing a lot more investor confidence. A couple of projects are doing very good raise and announcing very good raises recently, and that's usually a good indicator in the space that'll trickle into hiring in the next couple of weeks. And yeah, again, I love this fact that AI has taken off, to be honest, because a lot of the a lot of the shitheads, so to speak, have moved over to title themselves as AI experts, because where there's money, when money talks, bullshit walks, and the money is all in AI mainly at the minute. So that moves the bad talent over to AI, and I look at that as a huge positive. And yeah, God knows, like, we do need to get rid of a lot of bad people in Web3. Yeah.
Okay. Owen, it has been a pleasure having you on the show. I loved your honesty and how actionable your advice for listeners were. And really, thank you so much.
I look forward to keeping in touch, and yeah, thanks for having me on.
Yeah. And for listeners, we'll see you on the next episode. Bye. That's all from today's episode. Thank you so much for watching or listening. If you find this episode valuable, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel or to the Polyweb podcast on Spotify, Apple, or your favorite podcast app. It will be fantastic if you could leave us a rating, a review, or a comment, as this really helps other listeners find the show. All the resources mentioned in this episode will be linked in the description and in the show notes. See you on the next episode. And if you cannot wait until next week, you can watch this episode right here that relates to some of the things that we talk about in this episode. Bye.